This is WarBird Radio.
Here he is with his debut radio interview, Mr. Jamison Stone. Jamison, good evening. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, Matt, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
This is really bold of you to say I'm going to write a book, because that's what I do. I'm a writer, but I want to donate all the profits to military families. What gave you this sort of mission?
It's a great question. Really, how the whole book came about was I started on it in college, more of just a passion and a hobby. But then when my wife was out in training and away from the home, just due to having her away, I was able to go back and work on it. And it's very difficult, as you know, as a military spouse, to be away from your loved one during those times. And so I would send her chapters and excerpts of the book to keep her spirits up and to inspire her with her duties. And through the course of several years, the book was finished, and it actually turned out to be quite good. So we got it professionally edited and sent it to a bunch of our friends and colleagues. And now here it is as a full-fledged fantasy novel. And so we just want to be able to get the word out and hopefully inspire some other families, military and otherwise, in the same way that my wife and I were inspired in its creation.
We're talking with Jamison Stone. He's the author of Rune, the Apprentice, a fantasy novel, and it's a really cool thing. Now, there's a quick link on our show story tonight. If you'd like to help Jamison out and help military families out, you can click on that. And again, you can order your sort of a pre-release copy, I guess, is the best way to put it. Is that right?
Yeah, if people pre-order now, they're able to get it at a discounted price. And how we currently have it set up, it's these pre-order profits that will be going to charity. We're really excited to get the word out now.
No, that's great work. In fact, a couple of folks are writing in right now whom are also military spouses, and they're saying, we got to check this out. But it's a good book, too, from what I've heard. Tell us a little bit about Rune of the Apprentice, a fantasy novel. You are the first fantasy novel author on WarBird Radio. Although
well,
some would argue that some of our historians, they may fall into the fantasy category too. But we won't go there, because that's a sore subject for some of these folks. But tell us a little bit about the book there and what inspired you to write this.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a huge science fiction and fantasy buff, and so Rune the Apprentice it reads like a fantasy novel. It actually, though, is kind of set in a science fiction world. So it's set far into the future where magic and technology is merged. And so with nanotechnology and all sorts of other types of fantastical devices, you can do a lot of these same mythic feats through technology. And so runes, hence the title of the book, is kind of like the language in which an individual like you or I would be able to control that magic. So instead of opening up our cell phone and clicking the app or talking to Siri on our iPhone, we would cast a rune. The main character of the book, he actually has a rune embedded into his palm, and no one else has that. And so it's a very challenging subject for him to be able to not only have power that others don't, but have it be a gift that he's not quite sure how that works. And so the story revolves around him trying to understand what this means for him in his world, and then also trying to escape the other people who are trying to actually steal that power from him. Over the course of his adventures, he recruits friends and allies and falls in love, and ultimately has to deal with his nemesis, who uses runes to conquer entire continents. So it's a story that lovers of epic fiction would enjoy, but also military families too, because a lot of our heroes deal with very similar ideologies of stepping up when faced with choices that feel as though we have to do the right thing, and this young man can relate to that.
The Rune of the Apprentice, available now for pre-order, and all of the proceeds during the pre-order go to military families, charities that support military families. You yourself fall into that category, and I'm telling you, this is going to be a lot of fun. There was a pretty popular series that came out a few years ago about a ring, and this guy that goes all over the place trying to get this ring, and I don't know why a rune would be any different. So I wish you the best of luck on that, and maybe they'll make a movie out of this some year. What are you thinking? When you see this and you watch these orders hopefully start to climb, and you think, well, this is going to be great because we're going to do something wonderful. I mean, do you feel like you're about to just shoot this project out there and it's just going to become wildly successful, or is there this sense of, oh my God, well, now we've launched it, now what? I mean, where are you at right now?
Oh, it's terrifying, Matt. It's incredibly exciting for sure, but it's also really terrifying. I think as any artist knows, when you put yourself out there with your art, whether it's radio or writing, making a movie, drawing a picture or a painting, you're really putting a piece of yourself out on display, and you're really baring your soul or your heart for review. And so anytime that you expose yourself and make yourself vulnerable in that way, it really is a very terrifying prospect.
Right. Well, look, I'm proud of you, and I'm glad you've come on. I know this is the first radio interview that you've done. I just want to say that when this thing is wildly successful, and then Peter Jackson's knocking on your door, that you said, you know what, we launched it on this little radio station, and that's how it started. So I hope this is just the beginning for you of a wild list of success on this, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see where this comes out. Again, tell us what the price of the book is right now. How
Absolutely.
much is this?
So the actual price is $10. It's $9.99. But for anyone who signs up to Inkshares, that's the publisher, for the first time, so I'm sure most of you, this would be your first time with this publisher, you actually get a $5 credit. So the book itself is only $4.99, which, to be very honest, for a 500-page fantasy novel is an amazing deal.
It's like, what about a penny or so per
Yeah,
page?
exactly.
It's an actual printed book. It's not an e-copy at this point, I'm guessing.
Yep, so you can select as to whether or not you want an e-copy or if you want an actual paper book.
I sound like a mattress salesman, but how do you do it so cheap? I mean, that's incredible for a book that's 500-something pages. I mean, I can't buy a ream of paper for that.
Inkshares is a really amazing company. They're basically like Kickstarter meets a traditional publishing house. Like if Kickstarter had this really cool Web 2.0 baby with a Silicon Valley startup. And so they're really trying to get the word out there. So that's why anyone who signs up gets the $5 credit for just coming on board and reading some really great books.
I love it. Okay, our guest, Jamison Stone, the author of Rune of the Apprentice, a book that is written and it's ready for publishing, but it has a purpose, and the pre-order sales, as we've said, go to benefit military families. Jamison, I thank you for coming on, because this is such a cool idea. You're a fast mover. You're on a board of directors for a nonprofit. You've been in the nonprofit world. You understand that? Yeah, just another day at the office for Jamison Stone. Jamison, thanks for coming on tonight. That was fun, man. I appreciate you coming on. And I hope this book, again, takes off for you and for your family, but again, more importantly, for those military families out there that could benefit from this. So a small price to pay to help some folks out, and you can do that right now by just clicking on the quick link right down there in this show story and order yourself a copy of this.